You know, it takes years, literally years, to develop into a process to even develop a mine. A family may have the concession, a group of businessmen may have the concession. They have to begin studies, they have to do application to government, they have to prove that they have a sound environment to build a mine into, that the structure of the earth can handle a mine tunnel without collapsing. I mean, it's a real process. A guy could actually find a property, begin the property, and 4 years out come to us to help them develop the mine after he's got himself legalized, which brings us to IPR. So the process has been started years before we ever meet you, and that has to be verified not only by them but by government, and then again by our engineering team, before we say yes, this is a project we'll help you with. And that's what's led us to conversation with IPR after all that research.
Sure. And so obviously you come to IPR, we agree a financing model for ownership of a property, and then so be it an artisanal mine which is being mined before, or a project where we've got all the due diligence done. You may have run a couple of tunnels in. I can't just correct me the correct term there.
Exploration tunnels.
Some exploration tunnels, just to get an idea of if the geological reports are correct. So from month one, where Monte Verde have money to start working and start either upgrading a mine or building a new mine, to actually get that starting to produce gold. Now I'm not talking about building a production plant, but just producing gold ore. Is that as long as a piece of string, or, you know, generally speaking, on an average mine with average weather, how long do you reckon that would take then?
Well, if you think of it in a different light, all gold veins inside the Ecuadorian gold systems are on 38-degree pitches. Our veins run this way from the center of the earth to the surface. So when you're sitting there looking at a mountain, you have to estimate through science where that vein is, where you're going to intersect that vein when you're coming into the mountain. So that's the first process. So we begin the exploration tunnel, as you talked about, and that would be a very small hole for speed of getting inside there to make sure we can intersect that gold vein. Once we intersect that gold vein, we back up and do what they call slashing. We open it up for commercial use, putting in rails, putting in water lines, putting in oxygen lines, you know, putting in electricity, making sure that we create the safe environment for speed and also safety of our miners. At that point, when we know we have that intersection, that's when we come to you for the help of the financing, and that financing brings in those rails and all the essential things that we need to create a haulage tunnel to bring the ore outside of the mountain. And that's what brings us to you. Now, the timing of that could vary, because some gold veins may be 50 meters into the mountain, others may be 1,000 meters into the mountain, and then we size that up by distance, by knowing that we can do X number of meters a day with this much power, this much man time, this much dynamite, and that's when we give you our estimates of arrival time into the vein: 3 months, 4 months, 5 months inside the construction period.
Excellent. Something which always comes up to me, and you know, I'm like quite a lot of our partners. You know, I know enough about mining to be dangerous, but not enough to be useful. Is that when we're going through the mountain, the whole point of mining is you follow the vein. Right, now obviously a vein is going to become wide and thin. How do you ensure that you maintain on the vein, and you're always trying to get the best bang for your buck, the highest percentage of gold on?
Very simple statement to that, because our veins here run in what they call 30-meter laps. We have a vein here, 30 meters down, we have another vein, another vein, another vein. When we build our tunnel, our haulage tunnel, we build that into a north-south, into an east-west direction to cross-cut multiple veins. Then we come back and do north-south windows. Those north-south windows are exactly what you're speaking of. In our first vein, it may be 6 meters wide and come down to a pinch, which will open back up, but we have to take time to open it back up. We move on to the next window to guarantee our production. So that production team moves down to the second window, while the exploration team comes back to the first window to open it back up and see if the vein comes back to life. So we always take away that risk by opening multiple windows.
Sure, but obviously, but I just suppose really trying to get to the idea that, you know, as you well know, I live behind a desk, as you've seen me try to walk up and down mountains and melt in this hot sun. You know, a mine's never going to work as like it does on a spreadsheet. There's always going to be, you look at things as an experienced miner when you're looking at the average amount of ore you've taken out that day, or the amount of grams of gold in the ore you've taken out that day. Realistically, do you look at that at the end of every month, the end of every 2 months, the end of every quarter, to actually get a better idea of the average of what's coming out of that mine in that period of time? So I take it doing it daily is just never really going to work for anybody.
Well, we always monitor daily for one reason, because we have to run our production reports.
Sure.
So we know what comes out every day. We follow the grams per ton and we follow the tonnage a day. If we see a sudden decline starting to happen, we know our underground captain is losing the sight of the vein, and he's starting to walk into the hard rock. What we do at that point is we go back in, we open up that second window as we spoke about, the third window, the fourth window, wherever we're at, and we estimate what caused that decline. In some cases, it's very simple to resolve. It's just a matter of the underground miners are focused on the exploration side, because and a good example is if we're mining 10 gram a ton ore, gold, and if it's starting to fall off to 6, 7 grams per ton, the underground captain will back up to find out where the vein may have shifted to make sure he gets back into the heart of the vein. During that time, we may experience a 10% decline in volume, but he picks it right back up by getting back on track on the high ore material.
So effectively what you're saying is that through experience and through technology and chemistry as well, I suppose, is that you could conceivably lose an amount of tonnage coming out per day, whilst the people underground concentrate on getting the most grams per ton out of the ground. Because I suppose when it comes to production, you prefer to have something with a very high gold content and slightly less of it than a huge amount of ore which has no gold in. Is that really what you're trying to get to?
No, that's correct. And you never want to lose track of your heart.
Sure, and because as long as you're following the vein, we all have the best chance of making money.
Always.
Excellent. Cheers, Ed. Thank you very much.
Cheers.